We're back with more What the business stories. Stories that are crazy, unbelievable, funny, but very true. These stories are full of valuable lessons that'll help you not only in your business, but also in your life. The reason why this is a crazy story is because we learned that when you buy property, you better get inside every single unit. We were so focused on trying to get this 12 unit to run that our wholesale deal slowed down, the fix and flip deal slowed down. So guys, it's so many lessons in that story. You want to make sure that you listen all the way to the end of the episode, because you're going to hear stories that's going to have you on the edge of your chair and asking yourself, did he really just say that? Let's dive into the episode. Welcome to another edition of the Expose and Expand podcast show. I'm the man with the plan, Jeremy Mathis. I'm Joshua. I'm going to give you the game, Mathis, and welcome to another edition of the Expose and Expand podcast show, where we expose you to the ideas, the strategies, the struggles, the failures, the people, and the experiences that have gotten us from zero to millions. In the last episode, we talked about crazy, unbelievable business stories that were very crazy, but actually true. And we started to realize we got way more stories to tell. We have way more lessons to give and to share. So in this episode, we're going to pick up where we left off in last episode and share some more crazy, unbelievable stories that's going to provide some valuable lessons to you guys and help you guys continue to grow. Let's get exposed. So guys, as always, man, we would love your support. We want to continue to grow the show, and we want to continue to expose other people to the show. So just please be sure to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Hit that follow button if you're listening on any of the podcast players, and please leave us a 5-star review. Yes, guys, thank you for all of your support. We do truly appreciate it. If you didn't watch the last episode, go watch the last episode. That way you can understand what's happening. In this episode, we're going to give you more crazy stories and more lessons that we learned from these unbelievable stories that happen in business. And I'm going to jump right off the point. But even before you jump off, it's not crazy stories. In the last episode, it was called What the Stories. So yes, that's right. What it's called. It's called What the Stories. Y'all gonna hear and y'all gonna listen. Y'all gonna be like, man, what they going through? Yes. I'm sorry, guys. It's not crazy story. Like Josh says, there's WTF stories. So here's another WTF stories. Like it doesn't sound true, but it's actually true. You guys have heard multiple times on this show about the story of the 12 units. We met a guy in Home Depot, and we agreed to buy these 12 units from him. We got a great price on it. So that was the first part of the story. Now, after we agreed to terms with this guy, he wanted us, essentially, we had to clear out our bank account in order for us to buy these 12 units. We wanted our down payment to be less than what it actually was. Our down payment was equivalent to 10% of the purchase price. We was trying to make it to be 5% of the purchase price so we can go into this having some reserves in case something happened. We should have went with our first instinct, but we didn't, and we learned a valuable lesson. So catch you guys up. We agreed to terms with this guy to buy the 12 units, and now it's time to do the inspection. When we get to the property, or prior to us getting there, he told us, I'm going to get you guys inside all 12 units. When we get there, hey, 2 of the tenants, they're not cooperating. One is not here, and the other one don't want anybody walking into their unit. So instead of seeing 12 units, we're going to only see 10. Me and Josh thinking, okay, that's cool. We can see 10. If we see 10, we see all of them. They all look the same. So we going through the inspection process. We inspect every single unit. I mean, all of the units except 2 of them. And we were thinking, okay, the 10 units look good. That means the other 2 should look good as well.
Slow your roll. They ain't look good.
Yeah, they look okay. You're right. They ain't look good. They look okay. All right. So after we do the inspection, we decide to move forward with the purchase of the properties. We close like 2 or 3 weeks later. And when we closed, I remember this as I was thinking about the story. The day we closed, I went to the property, and we put a notice on the door that says, hey, under new management, call this number if you have questions, et cetera, et cetera. So a couple tenants started calling me. Is this real? Yes, this is real. I'm the new owner. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go out there this weekend and I'm going to meet some of the new tenants. So I go out there, I start meeting some of the new tenants, and one of the tenants say, oh, you the new owner? She looked at me and said, oh, I feel sorry for you. I'm like, what you feel sorry for me for? Like, this is a great deal for me. So we the next week comes around, we own the units, and we're putting a plan together as to how we're going to start making money from this and getting these units fixed up. Mind you, guys, we cleared out our bank account, so we have $0 in our bank account.
One thing I want to give them everything. Like, so guys, just so we mentioned this before, we paid $1,050,000 for the units. The guy wanted 10% down, so essentially we had to come with about $150,000 to the closing table.
Yeah, so we cleared up our bank accounts. We had no money in our bank accounts, and we were saying, you know what, we're gonna make money. The way that we're going to sustain ourselves and continue to pay the mortgage on this is through the cash flow of these units. So going back to the story, the lady said, she looked at me and said, I feel sorry for you. So I'm like, what you feel sorry for me for? Like, this is a great deal. We 2 weeks into this thing, and we closed in September. September is hurricane season. It's the prime of hurricane season in South Florida. We had 2 weeks after closing, we had a tropical storm that came in. And I remember it like it was yesterday. It was 11:32 at night, and I got a phone call from one of the tenants because I was managing our properties at the time, and she called me and said, yeah, you need to get over here ASAP, and I'm about to call the fire department. I'm like, well, is there a fire? No, my roof collapsed. Your roof collapsed? Yes, my roof collapsed. And this is one of the tenants whose units we did not get inside of when we did the inspection. So I get there. The fire department's not there, but the police is there, and they put a sticker on the building that deemed the building unsafe because her ceiling had collapsed. So we figure out how to make all of this right, where we put the lady in the hotel for the night. We actually, that hotel, that night stay turned into like a 2-week stay in the hotel. And we had to figure out how we were going to make the building unsafe. We worked through that whole process, and we eventually got sued. The lady sued us. She tried to get money from us, and it was just a whole nightmare. So the reason why this is a crazy story is because we learned that when you buy property, you better get inside every single unit, because if not, you're gonna put yourself in a bad predicament.
Why did the lady sue us?
The lady sued us because the ceiling caved in. The ceiling caved in, and she was trying to get money from us. Luckily, the lawsuit didn't go anywhere, thank God, because we didn't have any money. But yeah, the lawsuit didn't go anywhere. So
yeah. So was there any other lessons you learned from us buying the 12 units?
Yeah. So like I said, number one, every time you buy real estate, you want to make sure that you get inside every single unit. If it's 300 units, you better get inside every single one, because you don't want any scary situations that we found ourselves in.
Get inside every unit and do a thorough inspection as well. Like, right, look under the sinks, flush the toilets, because it's little things that we could have done to solve that there were major issues with these buildings.
Yes. The second thing that I learned is always, as we talked about this before on several episodes, always have reserves. Because we had to, once that ceiling collapsed, we put her in the hotel for 2 weeks. We had to use a credit card to fund that. A tenant luckily moved out, and we was able to put her out of a hotel and put her into the vacant unit that we had, but we had to fix that unit up. We had to use credit cards to do that because we had no reserves. So that was lesson number 2, always have reserves. And the third lesson from this is always treat people the right way and pay your contractors before they ask you to be paid. The reason why I say that was because in order to get that unit fixed up, we put the material on a credit card, and we put the labor on credit. Since we had been doing business with this contractor for a long time, and we had a great relationship with him, he saw the predicament that we was in, and he was nice enough to say, listen, I know you guys are good for it. Pay me when you have the money. So we was able to finance the materials to fix up that unit, and we also, quote unquote, we financed the labor because we paid them at a later date. So those are the 3 lessons that I learned from that ceiling collapsing after we purchased the 12 units.
One thing Jerm said was pay your contractors before they actually be paid. Guys, don't take that advice. Pay them when they're supposed to get paid. Make sure the job is done right, and then you pay them. Don't pay them before they actually be paid. So, man, that was a great story, and I remember that like yesterday. My question I have for you is, like, when we was going through that, help the audience understand what you was feeling like what was your mental like, help them understand that.
My mental, I was not in a good space. I was really mentally broken because
what was joy, because that was the biggest deal we had done. It was a joyous moment for us. This is our first $1 million. We didn't think, and sorry to cut you off, but we didn't think through nothing. It was just like we wanted to own this 12-unit building. We wanted to do $1 million deal. We wanted to own these 12 units. We wanted to add units to our rental portfolio. And going through that whole process, we were happy. This was our biggest seller financing deal at the point. This was our biggest purchase at that point. Everything was going in the right direction. And then to see 2 weeks after we closed, not having no money in the account, that was stressful. Having to not only manage our rental portfolio with no money in the account, but also our wholesale and fixing and flipping company. We had no money. Then managing the stress of the property management. That was because at that point I think we owned like 3 or 4 units before we purchased the 12 units. Property management was easy at that point. Then have more tenants, that became difficult. So my feeling going through that was it was a lot of anxiety, a lot of anxiousness. And I was also scared during that point because I'm like, dang, we finna get sued. A lot of negativity, a lot of negative things happen. So I wasn't in a good place mentally. One thing I thought about, while you was talking is understanding that every opportunity that comes your way, sometimes if it's really good, you still may not be in the position to take on that opportunity. And that's one thing that Jeremy and I have had to learn over and over. We've had so many good opportunities, and sometimes taking on too many opportunities can put you in a bad space, not just mentally, but financially. It can put you in a bad space, and we've been there before. And sometimes, like with you taking on too many opportunities, it slows you down from you being able to hit those results that you're after, because you spend so much mental energy worried about taking care of that when you should be focusing on other things. You think about how that impacted other parts of our business, right? We were so focused on trying to get this 12 unit to run that our wholesale deal slowed down, the fix and flip deal slowed down. So guys, like, it's so many lessons in that story. Dun, 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 dun. Give you the game. He finally giving y'all some game, guys. That was real game that Josh just said to you guys. Sometimes in life, you got to learn when to say no. And that's something that Josh and we've struggled with a lot in the past. And we still actually struggle with it, but we are getting better. And like Josh said, just because the opportunity is a great opportunity doesn't mean that you have to say yes to it. And that's something that we had to learn. So that was a great, because taking on the great opportunity put so many other things at jeopardy. Like I said, our fixing and flipping business, our wholesale business, we put that at jeopardy because we stopped focusing on it. We put, at the time, our family at jeopardy because all the cash we had was into these deals. So I want to move on to the next story, guys. So this is a story where, like, as I think back to this, we had so many teachable moments when we owned our cleaning company. And the story I want to share with you guys is, so if you guys didn't know, prior to us starting investing into real estate, we own a cleaning company. And the plan with that cleaning, we started it with one of our mentors. And the plan with that cleaning company was to grow it, and so we can do a franchise model. It was going to be an owner-operator model where we show that the owner-operators can make $150,000. So we're doing this cleaning company. We're growing it. Jern was going door to door trying to gain customers. I was cold calling, trying to gain customers, and we was actually growing the business. And as we started growing the business, one of the major mistakes we made was we waited too late to hire. So we started hiring employees, and when I say we waited too late, meaning like we was rushing through the training, and it was a train wreck from there. But we hired these 2 employees, and it was the easiest way I can explain. It was a shit show from the start, right? So we brought on these 2 employees, and early on they did okay. And at the time we were young managers, we didn't know no better. But early on, they showed us that we should have been fired. And 1, they was always late to work. 2, they always had an excuse, right, on why things wasn't done well. So they would go into an office, they wouldn't clean it properly. The officer called us, and it was always an excuse with them. And then some of the excuses they would give us on why they would miss work was just wild. Like, they took random jobs on Craigslist. So it was problem employees all around. And random jobs, y'all, just so you know, random jobs on Craigslist was like
They told us, and it was crazy that they even told us.
Told us and showed us videos.
They showed us videos and show us like they would defecate on men. They would like put on heels and step on men. They would like beat men, and it was just like, as young managers, we didn't know what to do because it was so crazy to hear like, hey, we can't come to work today because somebody gonna pay me $500 to defecate on me, or to put my heels and step on their back with my heels, or to hit them with a belt, and you like, what?
Or to watch them dress up as men. Watch them dress up.
Yeah, watch men cross dress, so they gonna pay me more than I can make in 2 days working for you guys. So we ain't coming to work today. So that's why they didn't come to work.
So and they've they've given us several reasons on why we should have fired them. But again, at the time we was 22, 23, we didn't know no better. And all of our employees was much older than us. We was horrible managers, horrible leaders at the time, but learned a lot of lessons during that time. So every week when they go out to clean offices, they're responsible for checking in and saying, hey, all of the offices are clean. And that was our only metric or only way of us knowing that the offices was clean. We just had to take their words for it. Later on, I'll explain one of the lessons that we've learned. I remember this weekend vividly. They have to start cleaning the offices on Friday, clean all day Saturday. By Sunday, 12 o'clock, all of their offices need to be clean. So I remember every weekend I was on edge, wondering if not only those employees, but our other employees would show up to work and make sure they did the job right. So Sunday at 12 comes around, they text us and they say, hey guys, all the offices are done. We put the equipment back in the storage unit and we're going home. So me and Jerem's like, okay, cool. We can enjoy the rest of our Sunday. We don't have to be anxious about whether the offices were cleaned or not. And I remember it was me, Jerem, and the girlfriends we had at the time. We was at one of our mentors' houses, and it was Coach Harriet. He the head football coach at St. Thomas. Shout out to Coach Harriet. So we at his house with, talking with his family, having a good time. We having pizza and wings, and we get a call. It was almost 9 o'clock at night. We get a call, and they said, hey boss, we gonna be honest with you. We lied to you earlier. The offices aren't clean, and we haven't even started cleaning any of the offices. Mind you guys, it was 7 offices that needed to be cleaned. It was scattered throughout Broward County. So we get this call. Jeremy and I are just obviously frustrated and distraught. We had to rush home to get to change our clothes and drop our girlfriends off. And then one of the girls said, hey, you know what? I quit. She quit right then and there. And the other girls were like, look, because I lied to you, I'm going to still help y'all. So we had to go pick her up and go pick up all the equipment. And we had to work all night to clean all 7 offices. The last office we was cleaning, we walked out of the office at 7 a.m. And while we was leaving the office, their staff was walking into the office to, get things started. And I remember walking out of the office feeling like, man, I really hate this damn company. I don't want to do this anymore. I remember that feeling. So when we, we finished cleaning the offices and like I said, one of the girls quit. We ended up saying, you know what, screw this. We let the other employee go. And, obviously we continued with the company, and we told you guys before we went ahead and sold that business. But the lesson that I want to share there when it comes to the employee issue is, number 1, trust but verify, right? We should have, you can trust people, but you need to verify what they're saying. One of the things that we should have done is not only got a text message from them, we should have made them send us a video of all of the offices being cleaned. That would have been an easy way for us to see that things were done. And that video was simple. Hey, I washed all the dishes in their sink. There's no trash. Wipe their hand across some of the equipment to show that there is no dust. But yeah, that was one of the lessons. Another lesson that we learned, I think for German, that was a valuable lesson. We don't want to be in a low margin business. We don't want to be in a low margin business, and cleaning is a low margin business. And it's an industry that is it's an industry that thrives off price. Right? The way that you compete is on price. It's rare that you can offer better service. It's a price-driven model. So most people just undercut. Somebody say they'll do the office for $300. Then you got to come back and say, I'll do it for $275. And before you know it, you eat up all your margin. That was one of the biggest issues that we had, because we were trying to charge $800 to $1,200 per office. there were mom and pops willing to do that office for $300-$400, and we just couldn't compete on that, because for us, we wanted to grow the business and move out where we would just own kind of owner operators, but not doing the cleaning. And those were two of the major lessons that we learned from that.
Gosh, that when we say that was a tough time, it was tough, but it was a fun part of our life as I reflect on it, because just to get an employee, like I think about where I am now in my life, and that was like 10 years ago when this happened. Now versus then, I'm like, I would probably fire somebody without, like, quickly if they called me and said, hey, listen, I can't come to work because I got to take on another job. But back then, that happened time and time again. That wasn't a one-time occurrence, guys. That happened multiple weekends where they called us. These two people specifically, they called us, hey, yeah, man, I can't come to work. I can't do this. I can't do that because I got this going on. And it's just funny that everything in your life, I think, happens for a reason. And it was a good learning experience.
I mean, I look back on it now. Even when I share those messages, share those stories with Queen, I just laugh about it, because it was like some of the things that we accepted. Yep. But also, it's important that you go through those moments in life, because it creates those opportunities for you to see your growth as a person, as a business leader, because the things that we accepted then, we won't accept now. Right. And we had to go through those things. So for all of you guys listening, I guess the message there is just trust the process and enjoy the journey. Right. Because you need those instances in your life. You need those instances in your journey so that it can help you as you grow. Like a lot of those things that we went through, like when you going through it, you like, man, I hate this. Why am I doing this? But as we look back on it, we've grown so much as people and leaders.
Nah, for real. But the last WTF story is this happened recently, like literally recently. So most people, if you're in real estate, you've heard the term professional tenant. A professional tenant is somebody as a tenant that knows all the laws and they know all the nuances of how to get in and out of rental properties and how to eventually finesse a landlord, for lack of better words. So we had this tenant that moved in August, one that moved in August, one that moved in September. And I don't know if they was cousins or what, but they didn't live in the same unit, so they could not have been related. But this all happened at the same time. One dude, they both moved in with agencies, not Section 8, but just different agencies that help people pay first, last, and security. Because living in South Florida is so expensive down here, you have these agencies that help people pay part of their rent or a portion of the security deposit to move in. So these two people, they both moved in. They covered the first month's rent, and the agency covered the 2 security deposits that we asked for both of them. They both move in. We screened them. They both had good jobs, good bank statements. Everything aligned. The stars aligned until it was the following month, and they both had to start paying rent. So when they both had to start paying rent, they quickly started to learn how to finesse us. So all of our rentals are ran off a rental management software that collects rent for us. So tenants pay their rent online. They put maintenance requests online. Everything is ran through this software. And these two, they finesse us great through this software. So what they would do is they would pay their rent, or it would show that they paid their rent. And there's a hold. So when they pay their rent, there's like a 3 to 5 day hold. So it would show that it's paid, but the money won't hit our account until like 5 to 7 days after it shows that they paid their rent, because the management, the rental management platform, they hold that rent. So what these people would do is they would pay their rent, it would show as paid, and then 7 days later it would show up as unpaid, or it would show up as insufficient amount, or it would show up as the greatest term was fraudulent activity. So essentially what these tenants were doing was they would pay their rent so that they didn't get a 3-day notice or they didn't get evicted, and then they would go back and they would charge back their rent. And this happened for 6 months, and you're asking yourself, how could we let this happen for 6 months?
there's certain rules that apply to paying rent and noticing people and 3-day noticing. I mean, putting 3-day notices and evicting them. So they were able to finesse us till we got to a point of where we hired legal, like a full-time, not a full-time attorney, but we hired an attorney to help us through this process. Because for 6 months straight, they would pay rent and then they would charge it back. They would pay rent and call and say, hey, this is fraudulent activity. And then when we called them out on it, oh, I don't know what's happening. Oh, that wasn't me. Oh, this and this and that. And we, for 6 months, we accepted BS and lies from these tenants. And long before you know it, we're 6 months out of rent, and we're paying hefty fines. I mean, not hefty fines, hefty fees for attorneys and court costs to get these people evicted.
We had to pay chargeback fees too.
We
right?
had to pay chargeback fees. We had to pay. Lo and behold, we've lost over $40,000 from these 2 tenants not paying their rent and everything that's involved. So we're going through the eviction process. One of the tenants, they finally gave up, and they moved out after 6 months, and going through the eviction process. One of the other tenants, that boy was not giving up. That boy is a professional tenant times 10. So when he got served, he knew how to do the response the proper way to buy himself more time into the unit. When it was time to put money in the registry that he owed us, that boy deposited a fake check that looked real. And we didn't learn the check was fake until a month after he deposited the check. So in order for us not to have evicted him, he had to put the money in the court's registry, and he gave them a fraudulent check. Once everything was all said and done, we cashed that check, and we found out that was fake as well. So long story short, we got finessed for 6 months. We lost out on over $40,000 on 2 tenants that finessed us. And the lessons there is, number one, if a tenant, for us, what we learned, if a tenant is coming from an agency outside of Section 8 and they need help paying, more than likely they're going to continue to need help paying their rent. So for us, we no longer accept tenants that come from different agencies. That was the first lesson. The second lesson is, the first time we see that a tenant cannot pay, they get no other chances. We're moving forward with the eviction. We're not trying to hear any sob stories, because one thing that I have come to realize all these years of owning rental properties, everyone knows that on the first of the month, rent is due. If you know you're going to fall into a financial situation where you cannot pay your rent, you could call beforehand and say, hey, I'm going to have some issues. You guys work with me. If they come to us after the issues start, it's a red flag automatically, and we're getting these people out. So that was another WTF story of going through 6 months of agony of thinking we got rent collected and then we don't, and then just going through a crazy eviction process.
What do you say to the people who heard the lessons and then the things that we're going to implement? What do you say to those people that say, these people, these guys are being so unhumane, or they're not giving people a chance?
I tell them to go try for themselves. Go try for yourself, and you go through this for yourself. Because now, and that leads me to another lesson that I just thought about, was what we do now is, because of this, if you pay your rent and we see that it's fraudulent and it's charged back or whatever happens, and we don't collect the money, we put in our lease. We changed our lease because of this. It automatically states, if that happens, it is now, for the rest of your lease, it is now your responsibility to make sure you come to our office with a cashier's check or certified check, and you have to pay your rent that way. You no longer have the convenience of being able to pay online. Yeah. So if somebody thinks we're being inhumane or we being bad or whatever, I tell them, hey, you go ahead, you accept that tenant, because I ain't doing it no more.
Yeah. One thing that we talked about this in a previous episode, I believe it was episode 4 or 5, there's purpose behind your pain. Yeah. And I remember because Jerm manages our property manager, and I remember him just constantly being frustrated when this was going on. And, that frustration led to us learning some valuable lessons, one, for us to be able to share to you, but then also be able to share to our coaching students that's in our coaching program, because I think a part of us going through that has made us better property owners, right? And then 2, it helped us become better business owners, because we're nice guys. Oh, you know what? I got to be late on my rent, and every month you late on your rent. Or, it was, when the tenant needed
I can't think of any other examples, but the point is just like we were the nice guys, and we was not, if I'm being real, we wasn't putting our family first. Because if I'm putting my family first, I'm gonna make the best decision for the organization, the best decision for my family, right? Because like Jerm said, anywhere you go in this country, rent is due on the first.
Anywhere.
It's due on the first, right? So for us, that allowed us to become better business owners and put, hey, this is the standard operating procedure. If they don't pay on time, this is what happens. If it's fraudulent, after the first time, this is what happens.
Yes, facts. Josh gave y'all some real game, and I hope y'all picked it up. You gotta put your family first, and when you put your family first, that means you'll put the organization first so that you can make money. Because this was a very expensive lesson, over $40,000 of fees and unpaid rent for 6 months from 2 different tenants. $40,000. The $40,000, a huge mistake and huge lesson. Like Josh said, I was full of frustration and agony going through this, because at month 3, I'm calling the attorneys like, hey, how do we do this? What do we do? And listening to them, and then we finally figured out a way in a quick maneuver to figure this out and get these people out. But gosh, this was a very expensive lesson that we want you guys to avoid. So these WTF stories in these last 2 episodes, we wanted to share this with you because they really are unbelievable, but they actually did happen. And we just want you guys to know that in business, you're going to have some of these moments like, bro, I can't even believe this is happening. So we wanted to share that with you guys. Any parting words, my guy?
Hey, man, I think this is another banger, another one for the books. I'm just thankful for the opportunity for us to, share our journey with the audience, the struggles and the failures that we've had. Yeah. And we can laugh about it now, but I know that is helping so many people that hear this episode in their businesses, in their life.
It sounds like a joke, but it ain't a joke. Guys, as always, we have our gentleman's agreement. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or any of the other podcast players, hit that follow button and leave us a 5-star review, and then expose somebody. Share this episode with somebody so that you can expose them to different lessons and stories that help them in their business and their life. Expose and expand. Peace.
Expose and expand. Peace.